Welcome to Your Spiritual Besties podcast. I'm Lauren Leduc.
And I'm Rashida McCoy. We're here to laugh, cry, learn, and connect with you.
We discuss anything and everything from our everyday lives to the magical, mystical, and woo-woo.
So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea,
and set an intention to receive, because you deserve it, bestie. Hi, Rashida.
Hey, Lauren. How are you?
Feeling nice and mellow after our meditation just now.
It's always good to ground. Feels so good.
Yeah. I was telling you earlier, I'm luteal right now, so I'm in the last phase of my menstrual cycle, and I get I think overstimulated easily. That's sort of the shadow of it for me. The good thing is it makes me want to clean and edit, and I can use the energy in a really specific way. But I do get a little extra annoyed too.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the changes. But you know what I love is you are so aware of your body and you know exactly what's going on, and you're not like, I'm crazy. So it's really important to know our cycles and develop that relationship. When did you really start getting into that?
Not until my 30s, really. And I honestly think, I hadn't heard about the archetypes or kind of how to channel the energy until I think it's in Rise, Sister Rise, or Rebecca Campbell book. And then I started tracking, obviously, when I was getting ready to conceive. But yeah, I can't believe it's something I just didn't even I knew about the period.
Yeah, but that was it. Yeah.
So it's really cool to be able to have the awareness and harness it. Plus, we don't have sponsors for this podcast, but I love the Stardust app.
I have that one.
It's so good to track, and I went ahead and upgraded to the professional too, because it gives you so much information about your cycle, but it's also super witchy. So I love that it incorporates the health stuff and the energies, and keeps it tracked to the moon phase too. So that really helps a lot. And now I feel I just can tell and I know what's going on. So it's cool. Sometimes it's a blessing and a curse though, right? Knowing what's happening, but it's still happening. So,
yeah, because it's nothing you can do about. Well, I mean, you technically can. You do have something you can do about it. You can harness that energy and redirect it, and really know what's happening. Knowledge is power, right?
That's true. That's true.
Just curious, what witch are you? It says it on there.
I think it's white.
White. I'm purple.
Okay. When is that?
The waning. Okay. Yeah, my cycle's usually around the full moon, a little bit after the full moon. Well, waning Gibbons.
I was I forget what it was, pink maybe before, but this year I've moved solidly into the new moon. So it's the day of.
Oh, clockwork. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think the awareness can do that.
It's really really help you regulate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, thanks. Just a little girl talk. We need it this is stuff that should be taught in schools, not just about your period and your bleeding and all the things and how you need to shut it up, right? Really honor this part of being a woman and how it's so in tune with nature and the moon and all the things. I digress. This is a whole nother topic we could talk about.
I think it should be taught to boys too, because it kind of lifts the mystery, and then also maybe would give them a deeper respect for who we are and what we go through.
Yeah.
And I know if we want to move society away from super linear and patriarchal and show up the same every day into something that does feel more cyclical, where there's permission at least for it, we got to get everybody on board. But
which is very true. Yeah. And that's so true, because when you think about the masculine, how it's supposed to be the container for the feminine, how can we expect that aspect to really hold us if there's no knowledge around who we are and what we are and the energies that we carry? So
yeah, exactly. And then it just becomes well, she's crazy.
No, I want a man that's like, nope, she's just, in her luteal phase.
Oh, it's cool. Like Arthur, my husband, he'll, he'll be like, I want to ask this respectfully, but are you about to start your period? Because he can just like tell by the look on my face. But he doesn't mean it in like
Yeah.
it's not derogatory. It's just like, okay, I kind of want to know what's going on, and now I do. And if you just seem a little weird or different, now I know why.
You gotta love
If my
Arthur.
chewing's too loud, or
Now I know. Oh, I love that. Bless
Yeah.
that man.
Well, we could talk forever about cycles, but we are not going to today.
No, we have a
Be-
special day today.
Yeah, we are so excited to be bringing on somebody for reading and coaching, and she is an amazing intuitive in her own right as well. So it's always an extra honor and privilege to bring these guests on. So, Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, sis.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We're so
Good to
happy you're
have you.
here. Yeah. So we'll start by just having you introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you seeking support with today?
Yeah, so I'm Kelly Cole, and I'm so excited to be here today. Like I said, I'm a mom of two, and I have spent a long career in the healthcare field as a nurse and then a nurse practitioner, really nurturing people and bringing them through traumatic experiences, et cetera, only to figure out that so much of what was going on that seemed physical had a lot more underneath the current that we were not really reaching with what we were doing in the healthcare setting. So that kind of, through a series of spiritual awakening pieces in my life, led me into the intuitive space. And so I'm not only a nurse practitioner, but I'm also a energetic practitioner, and I am really focused at this point in time on healing and helping people heal through emotional, physical, spiritual blocks and getting them back into a place where they feel really good, whether that's physically or otherwise. So that's what I do.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that you guys can glean something today, because I'm feeling a little blocked myself. The healers need healing. Like they
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
need the input, and the reality is that I feel like I'm a little bit at this juncture right now, having my own podcast and having these other pieces of my own sphere kind of happening within my business space. But I'm really looking, something keeps coming in from the side that is encouraging me to do something in person. And I am feeling a lot of resistance there, and I can't really figure out why. So that's what I am like going back and forth on at the moment. And if you have any insight on that, or that's what I'm here to kind of like chat with you guys about
And
today.
yeah, when you mean, doing something in person, what is the idea that you're thinking about that you're feeling like a
Yeah.
block from?
So at this moment, I have been focusing on gathering people virtually only. So gathering people, having a healing space, setting aside space that is meant for bringing up healing modalities, and only doing it at this point virtually. But there is a thread that keeps coming through that really I'm meant to be doing something more in person. And I've literally had, these flashes of like me standing in a room with like a bunch of people. So it's so interesting because it's like you get that sometimes things come through, but you don't understand where the path is like get down there. So that's really with that. Does that answer your question, Rashida?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing if you meant like one-on-one with people or if you meant like healing circles or something like that, which is
Yeah.
more what it sounds like you're
A healing circle is
feeling.
what I call it. So yeah,
Okay.
like healing circles of people.
Okay, perfect. Um, and where do you live?
I'm in Maryland.
You're in Maryland. Do you feel like you have like spiritual community around you?
I think that the majority of the people that I have connected to that have my spiritual community, it's all people that are virtual people. So like my people that I've connected to through groups that I've done, and like you guys, like that's how we are connected. I don't have people that are in my sphere that are people that I know in real life, quote, that are this deeply connected spiritually. So I think that is playing a role for me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So I think we can go into your reading. Rashida and I already have spent our individual time in meditation, looking at your energy, and then we can also just talk, I think, and yeah, see what we can see and reveal. Um, and just full disclosure too, I'm a yoga teacher. I have a yoga studio, and I've been holding classes and in-person events for 10 years now. So I might be able to also provide a little bit of just insight from my own experience beyond the reading.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we get into it?
Yeah. How do you feel about you starting off with the inner
Okay.
goddess? And then I worked from the root up. How do you feel about that?
I worked from the crown down, but
Okay.
but it doesn't
Does it flow?
doesn't matter to me.
Mine doesn't really flow either, but do you mind if we start at the root?
I don't mind at all.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Sure. Okay, I will start. So, Kelly, what I do when I read chakras is first connect to your inner goddess. And your inner goddess is the feminine aspect of your highest self, essentially, or the feminine aspect of your soul. And then I work with her as I'm reading, like ask her questions and things. Um, and I'll also say, I mean, you're a reader, so you understand this. How I see it might not necessarily be like how you see it, like visually. So we'll do our best to like interpret what we see and go from there. So I'm actually really excited to talk about your energy because it was so beautiful. I wrote like beauty at the top and in a big letters because there's just like so much and I don't mean like prettiness, I mean like that true like beauty, that like feeling of heart connection and soul connection, and like it's emanating a frequency um of that particular like moving energy that's what I felt from her. So she came through like immediately and looked very angelic, like flowing hair and robes, and she had this very like deeply kind and compassionate energy, absolutely like the healer energy, a lightness, a connection. um Something that's interesting that was coming through was like a real like Christ slash Magdalene essence, or like consciousness, and just like so much healing energy from that, like the healing that comes from compassion. So that was really cool. It came up in some of your other chakras too, but that's who I saw and who I was working with. And again, it's kind of funny. I did the root last, so I'm interested to kind of see how this story plays out in reverse. So I went to your root. I saw it was like a forest that had at one point been burned down, or like deserted was the word that came to mind. You know, like desertification, when the environment somehow isn't like supporting this ecosystem anymore. Um, so what I saw was like I don't know what the word is, like regrowth happening in a really lush and beautiful way. It was like I could see you walking barefoot through it, and everywhere you walked, there was just like so much more growth happening. So it was like you're healing your root right now, which is which is very cool. Um, and your inner goddess was saying about this, like really trust your embodiment. Y- I'll get to it, but your upper chakras are very, very strong and clear for me. So for that to work, you know, as a healer in human form, like we really have to anchor into our bodies and into nature and really like pay that as much respect as like the spirit. Um, and yeah, it said like anytime you're feeling depleted to calibrate your frequency to the earth. So that means like bare feet on the earth. That means spending time in nature. Um, yeah, I can see that really like replenishing your body and your soul and bringing you to a space of equanimity and of like being open to your healing abilities. Yeah. Does that resonate for you?
1000%. Like, I mean, I'm literally in the middle, not only, I mean, we could talk about this for a long time. I'll just be short and say one of the first like earth shattering things that I felt like has come through for me when I was deeply in meditation was that Christ, like Jesus, just came in. And then like later on, Jesus was like, here's the other part I need you to know. And it was Mary Magdalene. And I'm in the middle of reading, like, I'm just consuming like all of these Mary Magdalene books. And then, yeah, just the fact that you said that is very on point. And I was literally finding, I just like recently in my yard, there's this space between two giant tree roots that I feel like is like my own little energy center. And I just found it like in the past couple weeks. And I keep standing there just because I feel like when my feet on the grass and I sit there with my dog and I don't know, it's very, very on point. So yes.
Oh, I got chills when you told me that.
Perfect.
Amazing. Well, when I tapped into your energy, I brought you to my place of nature. And I call on my spirit guides first. And usually I have one on each side. But today, for some odd reason, they were both on my left, which indicated like that feminine energy. I'm still interpreting if that means like there's an imbalance or that it's really strong. And I'm sure as we go through the reading that I will get more clarity around that. Because when I had your energy in front of me, usually I see you, but actually I just saw your energy. And it was very like this ethereal, moving, like beautiful. Like I don't know exactly what Lauren said, just a beautiful way about you. And when I called on your spirit guide, you had someone. It was to the left of you. Okay, and this is going to be really weird, but I'm so glad that you brought this up, Lauren, because it almost reminded me of a Mary Magdalene statue. And the aura of it was like this purple, light purple, like shimmery type of like aura. And I'm like, interesting, because usually I see a defined guide, but it was just like this energy that just gave off Mary Magdalene. So there's something to that. So we went to your route. And I was getting like a lot of feeling when I was doing your reading, which is pretty interesting. And I was feeling very, when I tapped into your energetic space, I was feeling very happy and full. And like when I looked at that even more, it was almost like I was no longer in my place of nature. I was in like the woods or a forest, and then this feeling of just like happiness intensified. So, what that is saying to me is like really like lean on Mother Earth because you will find your balance, you will find your groundedness and ultimately your bliss in being connected to her. And so, if you are looking for any other type of practice, you don't have to look outside of that. Look within and look to her to kind of bring that home.
That's perfect. I do feel personally that when I know I'm just feeling super run down, we have a trail that runs by my house that's deep in the woods. So like if you just keep walking, there's bikers and whatever, but you can do little offshoots of the trail and it brings you down to a river, and that's my place. Like
Mm.
but I haven't been getting there enough. Do you know what I mean? So it's like when you start to feel low, like it's like an energy, like you're like an energy meter. It's like I'm like, I need to go to the woods. I need to, I need to go to the trail. I'm like telling the kids, like, I got the trail, guys. So thank you for just confirming that. And yeah, that definitely resonates with me for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go ahead and move to the sacral, and I want to preface this with something that you wrote on your intake form was a fear of judgment. So that came up a couple times in your reading for me, particularly here. So when I saw all visuals for you today, but it was almost like, a whirlpool in water. It's like it starts spinning, 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 and it kind of like pulls whatever is around down. It almost seemed like that was happening with like your emotions. And the waters aren't very peaceful. It was almost like you're like absorbing them so that not so that you don't even have to feel them necessarily, but so like others don't have to. It's almost like a protective thing. Um, so I could see the waters being more peaceful when you kind of let it be. And this actually comes up in the solar plexus here in a minute, but it's really just like allowing for things to be, like holding space for whatever comes up, and that will probably feel more easeful for you. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. So did it feel like I was trying to absorb other people's emotions or really just like eat up all of my own emotions so that other people, it wasn't coming out on other people?
That's what the second one,
Yeah. Yeah.
not really other people, but just your own.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Rashida?
Yeah. So this is interesting. I also had a feeling when I tapped into your sacral chakra, and it was, I'm just gonna say it. It was like this feeling of like turn on, like very pleasurable. Like maybe I need to like do something afterwards. And so that was interesting because that was the first time. And then it got me to thinking, it was like, okay, like, what does this mean? And you know how, like, when you're in it, like, you just do not give a fuck. Like, you will do whatever you want. Like, you're in your body, you're within, like, your element, and you're just feeling yourself so much that it doesn't, nothing outside of you matters besides what, like, what's in front of you or that relationship that you either have with yourself or with your partner.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what I was getting, like around that question that you had in the intake form, the judgment of others. Like if you were in your turn on, if you were in your pleasure, if you were in like this state of pleasure for yourself, you're doing it for yourself and to fill your own cup up, it's the judgment, it's not going to really be there. You're not really going to worry about it. It's going to be something that's in like the periphery or
Yeah.
like even in the background. And so if you're doing whatever it is that you're creating, if you're putting together your circles, your healings, whatever it is you're creating, if you're doing it for your own pleasure, like you're going to do what feels good to you. And what feels good to you is not always going to be what, I mean, shit, we don't do that stuff outside of closed doors. Like that's our own personal thing. But if you take that like feeling of like what I'm going to do to myself to make me feel good and
Yeah.
put it within like your work and what you're trying to create and do, like that feeling of judgment from others, it's just going to like it's not even going to be secondary. It's not even going to be in the background. It's not even going to be a thing for you. So really tap into that feeling of like what's going to make me feel juicy and what I'm trying to do. So how did that feel for you?
I mean, that's so spot on when you really describe it. Like when you're in that zone, you don't care. You don't give up. Like you
You
just
don't give a
don't
fuck.
care.
No.
You don't. You're like, I don't care. Like whatever. So that's so such an interesting and like really tangible take on that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's something that you could kind of sink your teeth into and be like, okay, I know exactly what that feeling is.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like rolling with it. Obviously, we're not going to, do things untoward outside of the bedroom, but like even like if you have a self-pleasure practice and you think it's a form of meditation too, right? Like and really like sit in that energy and that feeling and then like expand your consciousness out to like what you're trying to birth into the world and the feeling that you want to get and how you want to like feel like even not saying that you want to be turned on when you're standing in front of a bunch of people doing healings, but like just taking that feeling with you. So yeah, I'm glad that felt resonant for you.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I've never even thought about that kind of like connection either. So that's so interesting. Oh my goodness. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rashida, that reminds me of like Esther Perel's work around eroticism. It's not even sexual necessarily. It's just being like turned on by life instead of like jaded.
Yeah. I need to read that.
It's like
Say
really
that again.
Esther Perel, Esther. I think Perel.
All right. I'll also link that in the show notes.
Yeah, she's the one who wrote the cards that we use, the conversation cards.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah. But she talks about like, yeah, just being turned on to life, and it's being present. It's being sensual, meaning like awakened to your senses. And it's about like getting into a flow. So I love that. Yeah, really, when I went to your solar plexus, Kelly, it was a lot of the same type of information, just stated in a different way. I think from what Rashida's talking about, I saw kind of a flickering light. So it was almost like somewhat of a lack of confidence, or it flickers on and off. And it was that fear of what I got wasn't fear of judgment, it was fear of being misunderstood. But it's not really your job to make sure people understand you. So really the question around this one was, how can you just accept that, because not everyone is going to understand. It's something you have to release control around. And then that acceptance of judgment is actually self-acceptance.
That's pretty deep. Yeah.
And then there's no need to like edit yourself for others, Yeah.
I think that being misunderstood is probably exactly the feeling. And I don't even know that I had that awareness. Do you know what I mean? Like I was just thinking it was fear of judgment, but it's a fear of being misunderstood, especially stepping into like being in a place where you were like, everything has, its own like construct of what people think it is. And as a nurse or nurse practitioner, I feel like that construct is more solid. And to me, this adding in like this intuitive element, as deeply profound and shifting as it is, I think that I am not like on solid enough ground in this moment to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm okay with whatever they say, because it's like I'm worrying too much about what they're going to think I do. Or do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes sense too, like coming from a healing profession that is very 3D.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of course, like opening yourself up in a vulnerable way to like this more mysterious, beautiful, cosmic life and idea around healing, it's not going to be understood by a lot of people who are just, I love science, but who are like only science minded.
Yeah. For sure.
And so, but that's okay, and what matters is like the effect that you have on your patients, the effect that you have on your clients, and how aligned you feel in your own life.
Yeah.
And people see, even when people don't understand, they see and feel that,
Yeah.
And it might even trigger them in a way that's maybe judgmental, or it might point to something they're missing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And people seem to either react to that by being like, ooh, I'll have what she's having, like tell me more, or like, ugh, look at what she's doing.
Yeah, that's true.
How about you, Rashida?
Yeah. So before I get into mine, like something that came up, Kelly, was what's the worst that can happen? This fear of yours. What is the worst that could happen? Just if you could think of something off the top of your head, what would it be?
So I mean, this goes straight to like the worst that can happen in my mind is actually, I think it keeps coming back to a like a remembering, because here's where we get real weird, guys. Because
bring it.
yep, because I am literally having these like flashes of a past life where I was a chemist in Germany during World War II. And I realized what they were doing with my things I was making, like my chemicals. They were using them to put in the gas chamber. And I didn't know that. And then I knew it. And then I started like running into town to like tell everybody what was happening. And it was basically like shot in front of a giant crowd of people. Like I had this crowd of people that kept coming to hear me because I was like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And I got killed. So it's like a crazy, you know, in this life, an irrational fear almost, but like it's in there. And then on like a real 3D now sense, it's like fear that my family and friends will have the reaction that Lauren said, like, ew, like, or what are you doing? Or that's stupid. And I'm not worried about that's stupid. I'm worried about breaking relationships that are important to me and those types of things. So that feels like the worst thing that can happen.
Okay. I have just a follow-up from that. If you think back to your past life and even now, knowing what you knew then, knowing what was being done, would you change your outcome?
No.
Okay. So you have that. Yeah. And I want to tread lightly here because it's not always black and white, but when you think about these relationships and your fear of, them breaking, I'm just going to say sometimes relationships have to morph and shift to make room for the things that you are calling in for your life. And if you are not willing to step into that space of change, you cannot create that space and room for whatever it is that you were trying to create. And so you were always going to feel like, am I doing you're always going to be on this, like, I see right now, this like line drawn in the sand, and like you have 2 feet, one on either side, and you're trying to decide, can I just keep like part of my foot on the line, or can I step fully, over onto the left side? And I don't know if the left has any significance or not. That seems to be coming up often for me today. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your relationships are going to go away, but they might change and they might shift. And is our bonds and our ties more important than what we wanted to come to do on this planet now? Is it more important than us trying our best to clear the karma or whatever it is that we decided we wanted to clear this go round? And that may be some of the questions you have to sit with. So that's what came through for that. But for your reading, when I got into your solar plexus, I had this immediate feeling of like anxiety. It was like this feeling in the back of my throat, like I wanted to throw up. And it's so weird because I know that well, because I had a rough pregnancy. And what came to mind was like, what am I holding back? What am I holding back? And what do what do I need to let go of? So it's more of, not to like be gross, I know I was talking about turn on before, and now I'm talking about throwing up, but you know how sometimes like when maybe in your 20s when you were like drinking too much or you needed to throw up and you weren't, like you were just holding it in, and it was almost like worse to hold it in instead of just like letting it go.
Yeah.
It almost was that feeling like I'm trying my best to like, look cute in front of whomever and not have to like deal with this uncomfortable thing. But you know what? It's time for me to like excuse myself, step in the bathroom, and let all of this go. So I feel like so much better. I'm making room for like the water and the nutrients that I'm going to put in my body to replenish. So that was what I got from your solar plexus. How are you feeling with that?
That makes sense. So basically you're just saying it's time to pull the trigger and let it all out.
Let it all out, even if it's messy.
That sounds Yeah, that's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. Sometimes you're like worried that if you just start, like, I feel like I let it out in controlled sessions. Like I let it out in controlled scenarios where I feel like, okay. But the sometimes you worry that like once you start pulling off that top that you don't know where it's going to end. Like you're like, oh my gosh, all kinds of stuff's going to come out. So it is an element of like holding it in a bit. But I know that there's a lot to like let go of.
Mhm.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Two into the spectrum, guys. Stirring up, turn on, it's all the bodily functions coming through today.
I'm a nurse. Like it makes all the sense.
Yeah, you know what? That actually does make sense. I was like, I've never had like these strong feelings come through before. So that makes sense.
It's just for me. Those things resonate with me for real. So yeah.
Thanks you both for both sharing all of that. And Kelly, I wanted to add, like, when you come out of this spiritual closet, so to speak, that doesn't mean like every conversation you're going to have with every single person in your life is going to be centered around that. Like, mostly, I don't want to say nobody cares, but I think like we hold this fear from, you know, in our DNA or past lives, whatever. But like, I don't know, there are plenty of people in my life who like don't ask me about any of this stuff and don't really care about it. And we still have relationships and we can still be close too, actually. It's just, you know, it's fine. Like, I don't want to talk about football with somebody who loves football all day because I'm not interested in it. That doesn't mean I don't love them or like think they're cool or interesting people. And not to
Yeah.
compare spirituality or energy reading with football, but like truly it can be that mundane.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a good reminder too.
it
Yeah,
could,
absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not like you're gonna go to a patient and always be like, well, what about your past lives? Like, there's
Yeah.
context and time and space, and you will, I think, putting that out there and however you want to, you will find the in-person community who is on that wavelength that you can spend time with and grow with. It's just not necessarily going to be every single person that you interact with, and that's okay.
Yeah. That
Um,
makes sense for
yeah.
sure.
So let's move up to the heart. And this one was really cool. So what I saw was like a door opening, and then inside of it was like infinite cosmic space. And I was like, well, what is this? And it was, let me look at the exact phrasing. It was your workroom, your healing workroom. It said within it, everything is possible. So if this is not something you already do, here's a practice that you could possibly do. Like, just know that it is this infinite like healing space, and you can take anyone's energy or any situation or anything and place it within there to heal. You don't even really have to like try. Um, it's just it's there. It's like built there and ready to go.
Cool. That's amazing. I love that.
I was like, I want to try that.
That does sound really
I need
cool.
to go look in there. That's amazing.
I know like some of what we've learned, it's like you take people's energy to this healing space or like you do these journeys or traveling, but like you don't have to do that. It's there.
Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. What about you, Rashida?
Yeah, so I got a completely visual on your heart, which was really cool. So I had this image of two yous, that's where two of you on either side of a window. Your current you was opening the window and handing the other you a gem, which was that green heart chakra color. And I thought that was like amazing. And after that, I just had this like a sense of like just peace and like love and compassion. And so what I'm getting from that is like what's coming through is like you are your biggest ally, you are your best healer, and like you simply just have to open the window or open the door to your workroom, so to speak, and lean on yourself and your talents. What I'm getting is that you are like such a powerful healer, not only for the body, but also the soul. And that's almost like a remembering of this like other aspect of yourself. Like give yourself that same love and compassion. And yeah, remember that it's like within you and you have it, these two sides of this window. So that's what came through for me.
That makes me like tear up a little bit. And yeah, I feel like when I'm so deeply connected in, a lot of times what I like to imagine is that there's a mirror or like a big reflector that will try to like let that energy that I'm always like giving out to people like come back to me. Because I think that's just innately something that I know, that I feel sometimes I feel like I'm draining it out, like I'm giving it away, I'm giving it away, and I'm not like bringing it back into me. So that's a really good reminder of that. I love the window too. Like that makes, I don't know, I just that lands a lot for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And like I was like, ooh, what is this? But yeah, just giving yourself back that love and that compassion, like you're all you need.
Thanks. That's amazing.
Yeah, I forgot to read this part of it because I have it written down. Coming back to what I had told you about the heart workspace. I wrote, place anything in there to heal, especially yourself. So that's something to not forget. And I'm so glad Rashida said that because it was such an important aspect of that chakra. That it's like this power can also be extended to you. And you can receive it from other people and stuff, but know that like that replenishment is available through nature and then through this like amazing portal.
That's cool. And I'm like, it makes me want to like go find it. I'm like, I need to go look at, I need to go see.
I know, right? You like get so excited. I need to like sit and go to my place of nature and like do all
Yeah.
the things so I can access this. Love it.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
What's coming through with it too is like you don't even need to like do the place of nature, like nothing. You can just like really
Tap into it.
go right there.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Which is
Cool.
nice. I know I like shortcuts are good for me.
Yeah.
I'm a busy mom.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yes. I love that.
Would it be okay if we do the last three like all together?
Go for it, sis.
Okay. I'm just feeling that. Because they flow together nicely, at least for my reading. So Kelly, I went to your throat and what I saw was like kind of periwinkle blossoming flowers, just kind of blossoming and then dying in their own time. And the message behind that was trust your words, do not force, and let nature decide the timing. So it's like you will know what to say and exactly what to say or and exactly when to say it just by tuning in. So I think especially like in a world where we're constantly needing to like put social posts out there and your podcast hosts and this and that, it can feel like, oh God, what am I going to talk about now? Or like I have to keep up with other people or I have to comment on everything that comes up in the world, like, you know, whatever it is, like, nope, you know exactly what to do. And it wasn't saying to change anything. It was just saying to trust that really. I moved up to your third eye and I saw this like this was really cool. So a lot of times when I look at third eyes, I see this very like I don't want to say alien, but it's very like removed emotionally in a way. It's just like this objective observer. But for yours, I saw this like very beautiful like mothering energy. So you're not only observing, you're observing with compassion. And I just thought that was so cool. And it's something that you can trust. And I also just saw like kind of slow tears coming from the eye, but they weren't um, out of they out of sadness. I guess compassion is sadness and love like mixed together in a way. So it's all those things. And it comes back to that the energy we're talking about at the beginning of the session of that like compassionate Christ consciousness. And I could see that like flowing from the third eye. So that's a beautiful thing to be able to see others with. We all want to be seen. We all want to be held. And then to be seen with that level of compassion and understanding is such a beautiful gift. Lastly, for the crown, immediately I saw a heart with a dagger through it. And I actually stopped my reading so I could Google the symbolism for that, because I was like, I know it's something I've seen before, but I don't actually know what that means. And at first it brought up like tattoos and it said like betrayal. And I'm like, nope, that's not it. And then I saw it's the symbol for like the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which is like a symbol of like purity and devotion. So I was like, oh yeah, that's the one. So I saw this big like golden crown with the pierced heart. And yeah, it's just this like deep, deep love for spirit and humanity and your devotion to what you're doing. So it was just very beautiful. I really loved looking at your energy. I usually do like a wrap up too with your inner goddess. Like, what do I need to know? What do I need to tell her? So she said, we are beauty, we are compassion, we are devotion, we are medicine. How it affects others is their own journey.
Okay.
So every medicine is going to affect each individual person in a little bit different way, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to control that.
That's really freeing. Truly. Um, just to like let you know that one of the times that like I stood, I was standing like in my meditation and it was Jesus and Mary Magdalene. They just gave me a gift and they said, keep going. And that was the gift. It was the heart with the dagger.
Oh my God.
That is how like in tune you are with, it makes me want to cry when I think about it. So yeah.
Wow.
Um, thank you. Thank you for that too. And understanding like the piece on how it affects others as their own journey is, I think, really important for me. I don't want to have people feel bad. I'm like, some people need to go through the turmoil to like go to the other side, but I don't like it when I feel like it hurts them. And I feel like maybe that's just the tender part of me. But I know that it's necessary for some people to like come up to face what is like blocking them. Hard to be the deliverer of that message sometimes. So
It is. And you think of like Mary Magdalene, like she's the queen of being misunderstood, but that doesn't stop her from, and didn't stop her, but it doesn't stop her from like flowing through all of these vessels now and like still putting this consciousness out into the world. How people receive it is on them in a way.
yeah.
Yeah. And same with Yeshua, same with Jesus, like,
Yeah.
Extremely misunderstood to this day in a very politicized way too. And but that doesn't change the message and the energy. It just means that people are human and they're gonna use whatever they need to I don't know, fulfill their base desires and feel a sense of belonging and power and whatever it is. But and thanks for telling me that. Like I feel like chills with you telling me that, because we have these sacred experiences, mystical experiences, and we're isolated in them. We feel alone sometimes with them. So to have that confirmation from the outside is such a powerful thing.
Truly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to cry through this whole reading, basically.
Our podcast intro says that we cry, so
it's feel free. It's welcome here.
We laugh, we cry, we do all the things. All right, Rashida.
Yeah, dang, we could have just wrapped it up with a nice little bow with that one, Lauren. I loved it, and I'm glad that you got so much information, because when I went up, I didn't get too much. So I'm just going to go back to the throat. And when I was tapped into your throat, I just had this feeling of like caressing my throat and just like almost like a warm up. It was like this feeling of like just warming myself up, getting like this getting ready feeling. So it's almost as if it's just like a gentle reminder that you are still in that moment of stretching, of like warming your body, warming your throat chakra to get ready to like really step into your full authenticity. Like you have your podcast, you have all the things. And for that, what's coming through right now is like, what ways can you like really stretch? What other ways can you like activate this area that you have stepped into, but have you fully stepped into like it all the way? Like you're still in this like warm up moment and it feels good. It feels great, right? But sometimes, and I'm gonna give a little massage therapy coming out. Like sometimes we need a little deep pressure and not too much around the throat, right? Because there are a lot of like small things that can be damaging. But if you know exactly what you're supposed to do, you can apply that pressure in the right way to give release or to have possibilities open up. So it's really asking us like, where are you able to like stretch and get from this warm up space to like really playing? And I honestly did not get anything for the third eye. So I'm really glad Lauren had something for you there. And then when I came to your crown area, it was really like open and I saw this image of like this rose halo with thorns around it, but like it had light infused in it. And the feeling, I felt so much love in my body, energy moving through the my crown into my whole. It was just like this open channel of like feeling of this love and compassion. And so pretty much what I got from that is like you're really connected, Kelly, like and just keep on like, you know, leaning on that access that you have because it will help pull everything in through your other chakras. It will help fortify and shore up all those other areas, especially when we come from this upper space coming down into like the being of who we are, like our being in our bodies. Like your connection here is really going to help all the other things. So yeah, that's what I got. How does that feel for you?
I think that the roses and the thorns are still a symbolism of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. I haven't had a reading where anybody said anything about that really. So I am kind of blown away by all of that right now. Because it's like this thing that is like my side hobby. I'm consuming and consuming and consuming and like just praying with it so much. So it's insane that you're just, hitting right on that so much. But yeah, it all resonates, guys. You guys are hitting all the places that like, get you really deeply. So I just thank you. Thank you for all of that.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank
And
you.
when when you were talking about the throat, like really what came to mind is like, I think that it's like putting yourself out there in person. That's the next step because you're
Yeah.
already doing it in the online space. So if it's rubbing a little bit or if there's a little friction there, like good, that's how we stretch and grow. And
Mhm.
um, this is probably it's a mix of like intuitive advice and practical, but like go to the spaces where you'll find the people, like go to the yoga studios, go to like the fairs or whatever there are, go to where are you going to find these people and form connections, and then you can bring something in that they might not have already, right? So like if it's a yoga studio, for instance, they might have workshop space available for healing circles or be open to that. um, or if they're networking events, like, whatever it might be, I think that's like your action step from this call, like, because we gave you a lot of, I think, encouragement and sort of ethereal advice in a way, but like the practical next step, I think, is just like finding some way to get out there and meet people. And it's probably about meeting people, not about the network you already have.
Yeah.
Um, and
I that was coming through for me too. When you were Rashida was talking about the throat, it was specifically to me, like you're stretching on the sideline when you're supposed to go in and play. Like, stop stretching. You're supposed to now, like
you warmed up, girl. You already warmed up.
Come on. So that is, and I truly like, I think that I just had, you know, you have a vision in your mind when you start these things. And my vision was always like online only, because that's going to fit in my life because that is what I thought as being a mom and having so much busyness around my schedule and all of this. That was truly where I kept pigeonholing this potential. But I think I was probably creating a structure around something that didn't want that. So
yeah, and you can do both, and they can feed each other and inform each other, and you can have people participate, you know, on online and in real life. That's what I do. I have my online community and my in-person community. There's a lot of crossover, and then those people like end up going on retreats, or maybe they'll do one-on-one work, or I don't know. There's something about in person that just allows you to form a really deep energetic connection with people. And I'm so grateful that we have the online space too. Otherwise, the three of us would never know each other. But I do think there's magic in both.
Yeah, I think so too. Wow, guys. I think I really needed this today. I needed to kind of like open some of these doors and look in and understand some of the possibilities that maybe I was holding myself back from. And just some of the messages, especially that one about like how my healing affects other people is their own journey. That is so needed. I needed that today. I really needed to hear that. I think that that piece was, I think, a piece that was lingering in the back of my mind that I didn't really know or have awareness of. So I really needed that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, real quick, that brings to mind like homeopathy, you know, that's like taking these substances and I don't want to say filtering, but you're like taking just like minute amounts of them, and that's why like it's safe for anyone to take. But do you want to be the safe medicine?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you do, right?
Yeah.
But it does require that
Not
like
really.
watering down, you
No,
know?
no, like mine, I feel particularly like my medicine is pretty potent. That's why I feel the way I feel about it. That's what was coming in for me, because it's hard for me to feel like they're getting all of this insight and then walk away like, like, you know, it's like, I don't want to wreck somebody, but at the same time, they needed to hear that to like break out of what they were doing or break out of the barriers they were holding around themselves.
Yeah. And it's about approach too. Like you can either like, I don't know if you administer like shots, but I'm sure there are like ways to do it that minimize harm, and then ways to do it that are just a bloody mess. So you can wield it how you need to.
Exactly. With comfort and compassion, and yeah. So that makes all the sense. And I just feel like for people coming to me, this is something that I needed to be able to hold within myself, to be able to help them more. Like, it's okay. It's okay if the message is, you know, a deep message. Like I truly, I know that I'm meant to be shifting people at the soul level, and you guys are too. So, yeah.
Thank you. Would you love to tell our listeners where they can find you, how to work with you?
Sure.
About your podcast.
Yeah. I'm Synergy Thrive on all the things. So Instagram and Facebook, it's at Synergy Thrive. And my podcast is the Synergy Thrive podcast. So Originally, I'd set out to talk about how we have to incorporate our spirituality into our body and our minds and our gut and our brain, and doing all of this like full body spectrum of it, it all talking to each other. And what's actually happened is, especially with the podcast, has really just been almost all spiritual. Like that's what's coming to me. That's what's connecting. That's what's coming through on almost every interview. So it's so interesting. Like spirit has a way to manifest what it knows, people need the most. And that's really been the thread. So it's been a great journey. But that's how to find me. You want to check me out. It's great.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love that. And it's what's really cool is that I'm sure when you step into the in-person space that you're going to be working on, like things are going to shift and morph and change again. You have that like connection, like the body and the soul. And so often we find people are all either 3D or all 5D, but you really are that bridge to both. And you get to bring that into the world. One with your knowledge of the body, and also you doing all of the spiritual work and being tuned in and tapped into spirit, which is so beautiful. I have a question for you. What's one or two of your biggest takeaways from your reading?
I think one of the biggest takeaways for today is, first of all, that how Lauren said, like everybody's different medicine, everybody's different approach is what's meant to like shift people, but how that shifts is not reflective of the healer, and that how it affects others is like their own journey. I think that that's probably one of the biggest takeaways for me today. And the other one is that there is a different way for me to even access my own healing for myself and for other people. So those are two huge takeaways. And I'd probably add in there like the stretching on the sideline and, the warming up phase that I'm in, that it's all really preparing me to like go in. And that the very thing that I started this call with, which was I'm worried about being in person, is literally the thing that's going to stretch me and grow me. And it feels better now, even like saying that though. Like I think I needed to probably work through some of these places to get to more of some acceptance on that. So yeah, all of those are huge for me today. So
thank you so much for sharing. I enjoyed reading your energy and spending time with you and before as well. Lauren, girl, you always know the things. I love it. I love your wisdom. I'm so grateful for you.
Same friend. All right. I guess it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much, ladies. See you soon. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredible episode. If you loved it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and tell all your besties about us.
You can also connect with us on Instagram at yourspiritualbestiespodcast, and be sure to say hello and share your thoughts about the episode. Love you, bestie. Talk soon.